Hi, in this session we're going to cover adding prices to customer accounts and vehicle types. So we're here at admin, service types active, we're on this grid, and we can see we have our comfort sedan, our standard saloon there. And we're going to go ahead and add some prices. So you'll notice the first two are drop downs, so we can select zones. So under geospatial here we would have created some shapes. And that's quite powerful because for a particular customer account for this comfort sedan that we've got here, I can create different pricing matrices depending on pickup locations. I could draw a shape around a building and call it their head office, and you can provide a set of rates for that head office address. But pick up to drop anywhere else would run off of a different pricing matrix. It could be an airport, so I think we've got Barcelona Airport, so I could create a pricing matrix for Barcelona Airport for this customer, for this car type and this customer account, for example, Bank of Ireland. I can copy from one account to another. So if I've already created a pricing matrix for another service type, maybe it's very similar. So I can copy from one to another, and it will populate these fields, and I can make some small changes. So let's just assume now that we're doing all zones and our global matrix. And so again, if a booking comes into the system and it's looking for a price and there hasn't been one created for a specific customer account, it will always default back to this one. So you'll always have a price. So we start with minimum fare. It depends on the car type, obviously. We're a comfort sedan, so I don't know. It's probably around about maybe 15 euros, dollars, pounds, right? This is the customer charge. And we have our next column. So if you plan to assign this to an affiliate, you want to make a margin there. So maybe that's more like 12. And then obviously if one of your own drivers is carrying out the ride, then you want to, you'd obviously charge a lot less, so maybe 10 euros. So coming down to distance included, so does this 15 pounds, dollars, euros include any distance? It may do. In some cases, I've seen like 5 includes the first 5 kilometers or miles. The vendor, you may want to make them work a little bit harder, so they're $12, euros will include 7. Maybe the driver would have to perform 9, for example, right? But so you can see there's margins building up here already. Okay, so irrespective of these rates here, you're actually there's more margins just by these two here. So vehicle surcharge, this is a one-off fee applied to a vehicle, and I've seen companies who have a rate for the standard saloon is exactly the same as the MPV, so the minivan, but they just put a one-off charge here. It's optional, it's just there, so we incorporate all of the different variables that companies use around the world. So waiting time per minute. So again, 50 pence, cents, dollars, cents. Yes, sorry, cents. And would be obviously less for the vendor and even less for the driver. Wait and return formula. So I'll just throw a number in there, 200%. So wait and return is picking up at a location, 2 people get in the car, they go to the airport, 1 person gets out and the other person stays in the vehicle and goes back. That's called a wait and return. So putting 200 there would be 100% out, 100% back. But some companies like to offer a discount, so it's full fare out, 100%, and then 50% on the way back. But the default there should be 200 if you don't offer any discounts at all. But let's say it's 175, you could say, well, to the vendor it's half fare back, and to the driver it's quarter fare back. So again, margins. So apart from this profit you're making here, and this profit you're making in this row here, we're also now making more profit on this row here. Rounding charge, so what's the price you want to show to the company, to the customer? Do you want to round it up to the nearest 1 unit, so $1, euro, pound, or do you want to round it up to the nearest 5, possibly? But then for your vendor that you're pushing, your affiliate, do you want to round it up? No, you don't. And same for the driver. So again, on this row here, we have more profit. And it's not about just the price per mile. There's all these other variables that go into making a profit. So enhanced pricing, this is optional. So for a particular corporate account, you may have a special agreement where you say, okay, well, it's 15, we'll give you the first 15 minutes free. Okay, the vendor you might want to make wait a little longer, and the driver probably the same. So they're another margin, right? So if they keep you waiting, there's a profit margin here just by making these small tweaks. Minimum waiting time, so you can say we're giving you the first 15 minutes, but the minimum is 30. So if they come out 16 minutes after the time of booking, the charge will be 30 minutes. But we don't want to give the vendor any of that margin, and the same for the driver, so they would be the same. So the increments, not used very often, but you could say, well, actually, if you come out after 31 minutes, that's above the minimum here. The increments, they go up in tens, so we're gonna give you 40. We're going to charge it 40 minutes if they come out 31 minutes afterwards. So again, margin on this row here, but the increments for the vendor and the driver, they go up in ones, so they get paid for every minute. Stop via charge, so we have a pickup address and a drop-off address, and maybe there's some addresses in between. They're called vias, right? So, or stops. So you can apply one-off fees, like an inconvenience fee possibly, for a via. So I've seen anywhere between 5 and 10 units. It's euros, pounds, dollars. So the norm tends to be 5. So it calculates the distance between all of the points. Don't worry about that. It'll be captured in the pricing matrix. But it's going to add on an extra 5 for every stop. And you may not want to pass that on to your affiliate or your driver. So again, another margin there for you. Okay. Traffic factor. So Google's very good at calculating distances. That's great, but maybe we want to just kind of, it also depends on the service type. So when we're sending the addresses to Google, they don't know if it's a car or a coach. And obviously cars can take routes that coaches can't. So the bigger the vehicle would you increase this slightly. But I have seen it used on comfort, standard saloon work, comfort sedan work. I've seen this used, and it's normally around about 10%. So if Google say it's 10 miles, 10.2 miles, for example, and we add on 10%, that would calculate as 11.22 miles or kilometers, and then we start to calculate the price. So if you're charging 2 or 3 euros a mile, then obviously immediately there's a 2 or 3 euro price uplift there. Okay. And you really don't want to pass that on to the vendor. If it's 10.2 miles, they're going to get paid to 10.2 miles, and the same for the driver. So again, there's another margin here, and you can see how these small increments make up quite a healthy profit on every single ride that you do. So we've got our traffic factor. It's now 11.22 miles, but we don't want to show that to the customer. We can round it up to the nearest one. Okay, so it's going to charge at 12 miles. So again, another tiny, much smaller increment, so 80 cents, 90 cents roughly uplift. Again, not passing that on to the affiliate or the driver. They're both happy, by the way, because they're being paid the 10.2 miles or kilometers that's been estimated. Time factor, unless you're using hourly price, this won't make any difference. But when Google return the time they expect the ride to last, and this is based on historical, because at the time of booking it's ahead of the actual, so we don't know what the real-time traffic situation is, so they base it on history. And again, you can play around with that. So I think probably 25-30% extra on top would be the right number. But just be careful if you're operating the hourly bands, this will affect the price. Okay, exactly the same as traffic factor here. It adds it on. Okay, for the vendor and driver columns, we need to do nothing. So the rounding time, again, do you want to show 32 minutes, 30 seconds? Probably not, so we'll round it up to the nearest 10 minutes. Again, that would affect the price if you're running an hourly service. If you're not running an hourly service, it just changes the display. Okay, it gives the passenger a much better idea of when they're going to arrive. And again, nothing for the driver or the affiliate. Gratuities, not used very much. It's mainly used in the US, but you can have a one-off gratuity on every booking for this car type and for this customer account. And again, fuel surcharge, used a lot in the United States, just one-off fees which cover spikes in fuel prices. You can change them instantly. So, all of this section that we've just covered here is all optional. You don't have to complete this at all. You can just let it run. So going down to distances, so click on any of these labels. You can change these however you want. Okay, so however you're set up. The reason it's set like this is so you can offer discounts the further the distance, right? So a shorter distance. So actually, I'll just discuss this part here, which is if we go back to our pricing matrix, we've already included 5 kilometers or miles. So this 0 starts at 5.01. Okay, so it's not quite 0 because we've already included 5. All right. So 0 to 10. So let's just say this is a standard sedan. So let's just say 2.5. Okay, we'd probably pay our vendor 2.1, our driver 1.8. Okay. And then 10 to 50, well, it's probably the same. This isn't really a very good example, but we'll just run through this process. Sorry, just 1 second. 2.1, 1.8. But now it's obviously on a motorway somewhere, so it's running at maximum efficiency. It's covering ground very quickly. So we might want to offer the customer a slight discount. And the same for the vendor, same for the driver, and then obviously over 100 miles or kilometers, it's running at maximum performance still. We can really start to wind down some of these prices. So there's margins here, and yeah, just make sure there's always an end rate here to cover anything over 200 miles or however you set it up. So pretty straightforward. Hourly band, so if this is 0, this service type that we're doing for the Comfort Sedan will just run on distance alone. The moment you add something in here, then it's distance and time, right? If you didn't add anything in here at all, if these were all 0, this becomes an hourly rated vehicle. Okay, so it just runs off the hourly. So we've combined the two to be able to run together independently, all on the same page. So it's kind of like a virtual taxi meter, so being able to use the distance and time calculated by Google, and then using the time factor and rounding time here, we can actually just set up to 25 euros for the first hour. And again, you can change these and you can set them up however you want. Obviously less for the vendor, less for the driver. So exactly the same principle as the distance. So if Google says the ride is 1 hour and 30 minutes, if that was 20 and this was, let's just say 20 again. So it would be an extra 30 euros on the ride for a 90-minute journey, plus your distance pricing. Thanks for watching, hope that helps.